Okay, I will get started. It's 7 p.m. Thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we're super excited to talk about Dive and Thrive and hopefully help you guys gain a bit more insight into how you can plan with your business. So let's go over what we're going to be tackling today. So if you're looking to start an online business or a side hustle and you're unsure about where to begin, then this webinar is for you. We've been there and we are here to help you. With all our different skills, we decided to combine together to provide you with a webinar to give you some better insight to build your dream business. So today we're going to be talking about the why, the mindset to get prepared, the planning you need, the strategy, and how to better create content to build your dream business on a digital space. So a quick intro as to how all four of us met. I started a podcast here in Hong Kong, and the podcast purpose was to meet and engage with other people or females that are also trying to start their own business and be creative. I just wanted to be re-inspired again. So I went to an event here in Hong Kong, and that's where I was able to meet Julia, and I found it very inspiring how she was so organized and so passionate about her business, where she offers all this personal assistance and planning for different businesses here in Hong Kong. And then I Instagram stalked Camille, and she was able to join me on a podcast, and I found it really inspiring how she started her business here in Hong Kong and then expanded to the UK. And I did the same with Ellie. And then I put the two of them in touch, and they realized they live 5 minutes from each other. So it's been great during COVID to make friends across the globe, even though we haven't actually met face to face. But the point is that we need a community to help each other grow. And that's why we started to build this webinar, and then hopefully we'll develop it into a course. So Ellie, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, and yes, so thank you so much for coming today. So as Danny said, yeah, my name's Ellie. I'm the founder of Rise Network, which is a coaching, consultancy and community as well, basically offering one-to-one sessions, workshops and events to help support like people, women with their mindset and mental well-being in order to achieve their careers and business goals. I'm also head of events for a luxury hospitality brand, so I'm a big fan of, trying to set up a side hustle alongside your role. And yeah, the idea is just to create a community and make sure that you have the support needed. Thanks. Nice to see you.
Hi, everyone. I'm the founder of Finesse Lifestyles. We are an outsourcing company based in Hong Kong. We provide entrepreneurs and
Sorry, Julia, you're echoing. Can you check that you're logged out on any other Zoom meetings?
I most definitely am. I think that it could be other people that need to, somebody else that needs to mute.
You're good now.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I think, is that somebody's music on there? Sorry, can everybody just mute their, mute themselves?
Yeah, someone's playing music. I'll just mute the people that are unmuted. Sorry. No hard feelings. There you go. Just unmute yourself if you have a question.
No worries. Just to pick up where I left off, we are a boutique outsourcing company based in Hong Kong, and we provide entrepreneurs and small businesses with administrative assistance and organizational support.
Danny, you're muted.
Sorry, hi, I'm Danny, and I'm your digital bestie. I help businesses build their strategy and streamline their communication to building a better sort of social media pillar, collaborations, activations, and how to better streamline their sales funnels.
Hi guys, I'm Camille. I am the founder of Pixel Media. So I launched Pixel in Hong Kong about 2 years ago, and I was supposed to launch here in the UK, but COVID happened. We create bite-sized content for brands and individuals on social media. It's mostly videos, and it's entirely digital and entirely social media. So I'll be guiding you through creating content on a budget and creating snackable content for your brand so you can gain more visibility. So these are all of our businesses. I think you guys link it to so if any of you want to click on any of our logos, then you'll have more info on who we are. So we will be sending this deck to all of you guys afterwards. So you can have all the information that we're going to be sharing today, including this.
So let's get real. We've all got different sets of skills and we can't necessarily do everything. And this is why we've connected and built this community with the four of us to provide the best key learnings and information that we all can from our experience and our industries. So this is why we combined this webinar to help you tackle different elements. With Ellie's skill of the mindset, Julia's skills with planning, my skills with strategy, and then Camille with how to better create content and collaborations. So we've compressed this all into this webinar, and we're going to use this conversation with you today to be able to build a course that best help you and assist you with planning going forward. So we really hope that you ask questions and let us know what you'd like to know more about as we go through.
Great. Okay, fab. So I'm going to get a little bit started now with regards to all the mindset, as I think that's obviously how we really need to get started to begin with. So first of all, one thing I really wanted to talk a little bit about today was just kind of, obviously I don't think any of us can highlight the importance of the mindset and of, emotional well-being when it comes to anything, business related. I think this past year has been so hard, obviously, for everyone in many different ways. And I think what COVID has taught us really is that, planning so important, but we can never predict any of the obstacles that, we're going to face. And that's why we always need to ensure we've got the emotional capacity to actually handle them. I know for me personally, I'm obviously my background is in events, and of course, the whole industry has completely changed. And that's really why, like I say, I think just putting as much practice and prep into that is obviously really important. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. So if any of you have any tips and tools of anything you use to help with your mindset, self-care, well-being, I'd love to hear. So please do put that in the chat box. And I'm also going to be sharing some tips and tools with you as well today. So I want to talk a little bit now about using emotional intelligence as a tool for success. So how many of you have an idea already? Feel free to put again in the chat box if you have an idea, if you're working on something. And basically, we all know that, having an idea is great, but of course, it's often actually the resilience and actually being able to kind of follow through with things that's what can be really, really difficult. And often what makes people successful is the idea that, you just don't give up. You kind of have to just keep going. And that's why emotional intelligence is so important. So I'm going to talk through the few kind of main pillars now. Let's just kind of quite briefly. So we're going to look at self-awareness, relationship building, self-management, and self-development. It's also really good to see in the chat box that a few of you already have ideas. So again, that's always a good place to start. Great. So I'm going to talk about self-awareness. So one thing just before I go too much into it is just the importance of finding your niche. I know Danny is going to talk a little bit more about this as well, but just really understanding the value that you bring yourself and being really self-aware of the things that you are good at. Psychometric testing is really, really good. A lot of you might already do this, and I've put a link here to Truity, which is a really, really great psychometric testing tool, but it's just so you can look at, what are you good at naturally? What skills do you have naturally that you kind of, you can get paid for that really are quite easy for you? Often it's quite difficult, and it's really good to just be self-aware and look through all of your strengths as objectively as possible. Of course, then the next thing is the importance of pursuing your passion. The clearer we have our why, the clearer we understand what we're actually doing, the easier it is to overcome these obstacles. Whatever business idea you do, it's good to make sure that it kind of revolves around your zone of genius and what that you're good at. And the clearer you are on why you're doing something, the easier it is to, to get out of bed every day and actually do that and get over a lack of motivation. And of course, the more you understand the value you bring, the better it is, and the more you can communicate that to other people as well. So yeah, relationship building. So how many of you, how do you feel about the term networking? I know a lot of people find networking to seem quite stressful. Some people love it, some people don't. But the idea of networking is that you are literally building genuine relationships with people. And that's what it should be about, whether that's for market research, for support, for advice, for mentorship. And like I say, mentorship is so, it's really important. Even just asking people around you for advice, never feel worried about kind of reaching out. And the idea of creating a support bubble. So I know Danny mentioned it, but honestly, being able to work with these ladies, even though we haven't, not all of us have met in person, but of course, Camille and I are working today from the office together, and it's really good to have that support around you. It's so important. And the idea of having a community and having collaboration, actually, even with a lot of my own consultancy work, it's all been often through who I've actually met and who I've actually made relationships with. So I just want to go now on to managing your mindset. So I've spoken a little bit about, a little bit really about resilience and the growth mindset and how you react to situations. And I just want you can practice these things. The more you get to understand your limiting beliefs, being aware of your own emotions, what's holding you back. It's really difficult. And I think with COVID, it's been a really, really hard time, and it's hard to actually manage it. But like you say, there are so many tips and tools to help you, and communities. And the more aware you are of them, the more you can actually prepare yourself. Self-care is so important. And of course, if anyone's got tips, I'll be sharing more at the end of this as well. But yeah, on to really everyday mental maintenance. So the idea is, we all exercise. Well, often. I haven't been that much recently, but normally, it's just don't underestimate the importance of practicing your mindset and dealing with your mindset every day like you would with anything else. Often we wait for things to actually sort themselves out, to get bad until we sort them out. But actually, it should be just practicing that daily, getting used to it, and really just looking after yourself first. It's so important. You can't pour from an empty cup. So the more you look after yourself, the better positioned you are to actually move forward with that. And yeah, of course, I know Danny's put in here webinars, podcasts. There's so many great things, which again, I'll share some of my favorites with you as well. And last but not least, on to self-development. So positive thinking, there's a lot of information about this, and of course it's important, but it's really, really difficult to do. And I think, it's about mental contrasting as well, which is the idea that, you need a plan as well to follow through. It's not simply enough to think positively about things. You have to have the plan in action. And that's why I talk a lot about visualization, goal setting, and really working backwards. There are going to be setbacks. A lot of us have had to pivot, especially this past year, but looking at, goal setting and being able to work backwards. So 6 months, 3 months, and setting yourself realistic and achievable goals. At the moment, it's difficult sometimes to feel motivated to do anything, but just remember that you're trying your best, you're doing what you can, and even the smallest steps are still getting you closer to where you want to be. So celebrate every small step that you do, because it's so important. Goals might change along the way, but just celebrate everything that you can that's really small, and just make a note of that and be really proud of what you actually even can achieve at the moment. And before I leave you with Danny, I just want to leave you here with some tips and tools. So you can see, when this is sent out to you afterwards as well, you'll see that we've actually linked through. So Futurity, School of Life, all these great books that I've read, Start With Why, the Do lectures, there's some really, really great books there and resources to obviously help you stay on track. But in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with Julia. And she'll obviously talk through her bit, and then at the end we'll give you some information about our course we're putting together as well to help you with that. And please do keep putting any questions in the chat box as well. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Ali. I think knowing your capabilities and having a support network is definitely so important in this entrepreneurial journey. So valuable. So thank you so much for that. Hi, everyone. It's me again, Julia. Just a little bit about myself. Prior to starting my business, I was an event planner, turned into an executive assistant, and now an operations manager while I run my business on the side. So Finesse Lifestyles is my second startup now, actually. So today I'll be putting myself in your shoes and taking you through the 3 stages that you'll be going through when you start yours. So we're gonna begin with the planning, then go on to the setting up and ways to organize and stay efficient as a business owner. Now, before we get started on planning, I wanted to share with you this extremely valuable piece of advice that I received when I was in my planning stages. And it's this: the world is not short of good ideas. It's short of people that can execute them well. Please let me know what you think of that. And if you agree, please put it in the chat box. And so to execute anything successfully, you are going to need a well thought out plan. And the purpose of planning is to really develop a blueprint for growing your business so that when you do take the dive, you're able to see where you're going and what you're doing. Right? A lot of your initial planning is going to be mental. So you formed an idea in your mind. You're thinking about what your product or service is going to be. And to move that thought process along, we're going to need to check its viability by thinking about these three things. You can start with what your long-term goals are. Are you looking to just make some extra income alongside your full-time job? Are you looking to build something you can do full-time? Are you looking to monetize on a passion, maybe? Personally, for me, having to be organized, resourceful, and detail-oriented, these were skills I needed to have and to hone to be successful in my career. And now I've been able to turn those skills into a meaningful business where we help our clients do exactly that. So, like Ellie mentioned, think about your whys and your ultimate destination. Secondly, market analysis. The number one thing a business needs to be a business is customers, right? Without customers, we don't have a business. So do your market research into who your target audience is. Are they female, male, what age range, where are they located? Also, super important, what problem are you solving for them? And are you creating something that customers are going to love? While it's great to have a good idea of a good product or service, it's paramount that it's something that your ideal customers believe in and are going to love as well. And finally, checking that against your own financial realities. Do you plan to invest your own money or fundraise and have investors? Is your business model sustainable? Is it going to be profitable? And is it going to have staying power, and for how long? Okay, now to expand a little bit more on that point, we're going to have to figure out the money and list out all of our startup costs. Okay, how much is it going to cost you? Sometimes the business fails not because the idea wasn't great, but simply because they didn't plan far ahead enough and eventually run out of money. So take the time to plot out every possible expense, whether they are operational costs, labor, production, overhead costs, marketing costs, to help you decide whether now is the right time for you, whether you have the sufficient funds, and for how long you'll be able to sustain it. And for this, you're probably going to have to be thinking about an at least 1 to 2 year projection. And finally, research. Research at this point in time is going to be the most powerful way to help you identify and take all of these things into account. Some ways you can do research: you can go online, look up the type of business that you're looking to start, figure out what it costs, find out how to execute it well, what makes it successful. You can look within your network, reach out to people who have been there and done that. Reach out to friends who you think might be your ideal customer and pitch to them your idea, and gauge their interest. Be a sponge and gather all the information, the suggestions, advice, ideas, knowledge you can possibly get to help you make the right decisions. Now, once we're ready to legitimize and set up our business, the following is more of a checklist of things that you'll need to have or to obtain to set up. starting with writing a business plan. I know that writing a business plan, if you've never done one before, might sound a little bit intimidating, but it's really just a way to solidify your thoughts and map out your business in a way that you can already visualize it. In my last slide, I've included a link for some business plan templates so you can very easily follow along and to write your own. Legal entity and documents, you're going to be choosing a type of entity to set up, whether that's a sole proprietorship, a limited company. There are pros and cons for each, so choosing the right one for yourself and registering that with your local company registry, after which you will obtain a certificate that allows you to do business legally. Any business will need the certificate to operate legally, so super, super important document. On the operational front, obviously having a valid website, an email domain, and valid social media usernames with the name of your company. You're going to be preparing your marketing collateral. Obviously, that includes your actual website, any business cards, marketing decks, promotional materials, and anything that will show your customer what you're all about. A business bank account. I know that some sole proprietors prefer not to have one if they generally operate alone, but if you have plans to scale and grow your business or offer a variety of products and services, I would highly, highly suggest you open one, as it gives you a lot more credibility with your customers. And it also helps to simplify tracking your finances, because you'll have all of your business activities in one place. This is going to help a lot with your monthly bookkeeping and filing your annual tax returns, I think, which is all of our nightmares. So we want to make sure that we've set up a good accounting system and making sure that's that process is easiest for us. Finally, contracts. Being a business owner means you'll need to be prepared to take responsibility for anything that may go wrong. So having contracts in place, whether that's for you and your employees, for you and your co-owners, for you and your clients, is really just to protect you, to manage expectations, and also help to minimize any costly misunderstandings in worst case scenarios. And this is super, super, super important to have in place before you engage in any work, especially if you offer a service. And now we've come to our last topic of the day, which is my favorite one. Once you've launched and you are starting to get things going, how to systemize and organize. I know a lot of entrepreneurs and clients of ours who are business owners who really struggle with time management after they've launched. I think that some of you can agree, some of us who've already established our businesses, you're going to feel like there is so much to do and just never enough time in the day to do them all. So, and it's going to be really, really hectic. And so organization really just starts with the smallest things that you pay attention to every day that keeps things in order. You can begin with organizing your important folders, streamlining your emails so that all your bills go to one place, all of your customer inquiries go to another, so that your emails are not going unnoticed. And then also establishing a good digital filing system that allows you to locate documents whenever you need them. Below point 2 here is my favorite way of naming my monthly statements or bills that I get every month. Just to give you an example, as you can see, it's very, very simply the month 1, which is January, and then the year 2021, and then whatever the document is. I love naming my files this way because when they're numbered like that, your laptop will file it in chronological order for you. So I would highly encourage you to start a file naming system that works for you if you haven't already done so. And finally, our last point Using technology. This is really a means of working smarter rather than harder. You can start with mastering your phone calendar or your Google Calendar to bring structure and order into your day. So whether they are meetings, deadlines, errands, things you need to get done, bills you need to pay for, make a habit of putting everything in there so you can see exactly what you're doing for the week. Leveraging your skills, time, and money with the use of technology. There are hundreds of softwares out there virtually for any function that you're looking for. One of the softwares that I rely extremely heavily on is called QuickBooks. And it's basically accounting for dummies. And I use it to keep track of my profits, my losses, my expenses. I can send and chase outstanding invoices on it. I spend 240 Hong Kong dollars a month on its subscription, and I've saved myself a couple $1,000s a month from having to hire a real accountant. And so learning to use these platforms and softwares is really a huge money saver, and is a really great way to remain in control of all the different aspects of your business, even in the ones that that are your weak points. And so in my last slide, some tools and resources for you here. Here are some of my favorite tools that I use that help me tremendously in my everyday as a business owner. And to wrap it all up, starting a business definitely feels like taking a very deep, scary dive, but it can be extremely rewarding if done right. So I hope I was able to give you some useful insight, and hopefully when you do decide to take the dive, you can do so with confidence. Now, on to digital marketing strategy with Danny.
I think we wanted to answer a couple questions. I feel like there was a lot going on the chats. If you guys want to maybe cover, since we're still in the mindset and preparation of launching your business, maybe there are a few things that we could talk about now, and then go on to digital marketing and then content.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions for Ellie or Julia before we move along, I know some people have left some really good questions and comments here of juggling their current job and their new business and that well-being. So do you want to touch on some of the questions, Ellie?
Of course, yeah. So I just noticed a few people put in here about, obviously someone asked about the psychometric testing, which I just put a link to. And I noticed, I've just looked here about saying, you know, it's difficult to manage the self-care and emotional well-being, especially being in a current job, which I completely appreciate is really difficult. It'd be great to hear a little bit about, you know, what kind of things you're already doing, you know, how much of your time are you putting into obviously self-care? But I would definitely say one thing is about the psychometric testing is really looking at what naturally you feel kind of comfortable with and what you don't. Because sometimes, for example, one thing I've actually really found is I'm someone who's a lot more of a big picture thinker, but actually finds detail quite difficult. But if I'm ever feeling exhausted from one thing that I'm doing or lacking motivation in one area, if I do something that's the complete opposite of my psychometric preferences, so for example, doing something really organized, like organizing my bookcase or something, that really, really helps bring a balance back and helps me recharge, which I know sounds really bizarre because it's almost the opposite, but it's just taking that time out to use that other kind of part of your brain. So and also depending on what your full-time job is as well and what other jobs you do, if that's exhausting for you because it's not naturally something that you are good at, or if you're good at it but you're better at it because it's something that you practice a lot rather than because you enjoy it, that can also take time out and make you emotionally exhausted. So I would just say spend a little bit of time to really recharge and look at, you know, what you actually enjoy doing, what you don't, and really evaluate all your strengths, and just make sure you prioritize even a small amount of time for self-care where you switch off and focus on something completely different, something that's completely something that you wouldn't normally do. I hope that helps. If anyone else has got any questions, do let me know and I'd be happy to answer them as well.
Yeah, if there's any other questions for Julia as well. If anyone had any questions for her. I personally know when I struggled with ups and downs during last year, that's sort of what encouraged me to start the podcast, because meeting and speaking to other female entrepreneurs and startups really helped get me back motivated and excited about things. So I think each person to his own, like some people just need to take some time out, other people need to network and socialize more. So I think we all re-motivate ourselves in different way, but definitely a good community is always super helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Any other questions or shall I get started?
Oh, sorry. I actually have one question. Julia, do you also include about insurance when you plan? Because when you start business, maybe it will be a little bit different depending on what kind of industry, what kind of business. But insurance thing, I think it should be included. So how you solve this part?
Yeah, definitely. I think insurance is definitely, goes alongside contracts to protect you in worst case scenarios. I personally, for my own business, because it's such an uncommon concept, there were no insurance policies that really covered us in the way that we needed. And so as a result of that, all of our contracts with our clients are very long, they're very wordy, but it's
True.
absolutely needed. I think that insurance is definitely really, really important factor. If you can find a policy that covers yourself, your employees, and your clients as well, definitely please do that. And also that is something that you'll have to take into account when you are doing your cost projection. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julia.
Thank you. That was a good question, Jenna. I do think in industry, particularly dependent, because some industries you realize as the business grows where areas of struggles might be, and then so on, your contracts get improved with time. I know a lot of businesses that I've worked with, like we'll start doing stuff and then each project we'll learn through our mistakes and be like, okay, next time we need to include this clause in contracts to protect us because this is what happened last time. So a lot of the time it's like learning from activations or things it is that you're doing. And so you are able to draft contracts that make more sense for your industry, but it's basically you learn as you go, because until those things happen, you don't realize that that's additional things you need to be adding to protect yourself or your business.
I think the key thing here is to be proactive rather than reactive. And in my days as an event planner, and I was planning, private events for over 200-300 people at a time. It's a little bit pessimistic, but I always went by this mindset, and that's the Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And so through that, I really learned to be able to plan really far ahead, plan for, plan A, plan B, plan C, and then plan for if plan A goes wrong and plan for if plan B goes wrong. So being able to have that foresight and be able to look extremely far ahead and do as much research as you can to really help to identify any hurdles or speed bumps that may come across, that you may come across.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answer. Thank you for your help, Danny.
Anytime. Any other questions before we move along to strategy? No? Okay, well, feel free to leave comments. We'll continue then. Cool, so let's talk about strategy. Whenever you're ready, Camille. Thank you. So what is digital marketing strategy? So a clear strategy can give you a lot of clarification with how you should communicate for your business. It can help you make smarter decisions because you understand what you're trying to achieve. It can help you build your clear purpose and promise and your offering. And it can help you define your brand voice and really build genuine relationships. And it can really help you put some confidence behind your brand. And that's why everyone needs a very clear strategy, because otherwise it's like making decisions in the dark and you don't know if what you're doing is really doing the necessary communication or offering the right products or services for your clients. So strategy is very, very important for any business. So how do you start your strategy? So first part would be to align your brand with your personality. A lot of the time, we all have a lot of business ideas, but if it's not something you're super passionate about, or you completely are obsessed with, or super skilled in and know a lot about, it's really hard to align then who you are and what you know with the dream business you're trying to create. So I've often spoken to people, and I think when they're super passionate about something or very knowledgeable about something or a service, then that's how you best integrate who you are and who you want your business to be, through the certain communication or the way you're working with your customers. So being authentically you can very much become a strong voice for your brand. And then defining what is your purpose and mission and vision. So what is the heart of your brand? Is your business there to solve a problem? Are you providing a service? Are you providing products? And why? So really understanding why you're doing what you're doing will help drive sort of a more aligned strategy. Identifying your dream client. So building a personification of my dream client is someone who lives in this country, has X amount of salary, has this type of lifestyle, is normally on Facebook and Instagram, normally has this type of behavior, then you're able to better communicate to your customers. Because if you know your dream client or customer is only on Facebook and Instagram, then don't waste your time building a YouTube channel. Because if that's not where you're going to be speaking to them, you're just creating extra work for yourself. So it's very important to build a persona for who's your dream client and customer, and what do they do, where do they live, what do they like, and how do they like to be communicated to, so you can better sort of build your marketing strategy and efforts. Then branding super important. Obviously having your unique voice, your brand message that speaks to your tribe. So for instance, if you're speaking to a certain target audience who's really interested in sustainability or really interested in webinars or something, then this is something that you need to consider and work into your communication plan, so that you do things that speak directly to your tribe and that you attract those customers. And a lot of people say, oh, but is it bad to niche? And it's like, no, niching is actually great. The more niched you are, the better it is for your business. Because if you build a niche, then you're able to directly speak to that audience, and they know where to find you, and your expertise are there to help them. I recently had a podcast with a lady who is very much into wellness, but was doing PR. So she merged her skills with her passion, and now she's a wellness PR startup, and that's what she does. It's very niche, but she merged her skills and her passion, and now she's doing great because people in the wellness industry go to her because she understands them and she's passionate about it, and she knows how to help them with PR. So niching is a good thing. And then building your influence and making a bigger impact in the world. Sustainability, connecting, community is so important. That's really one of the best ways to sort of grow and reach out, because a lot of businesses forget that, yes, you can keep posting on your own Facebook and Instagram, but you've already reached those people. The only way to really expand and keep building the impact is through building those networks, be it with influencers or other brands, or collaborating with sustainable projects that you believe in. So always remember that community and networking is obviously a big part of how to reach specific target audiences. So yeah, so most asked questions that I get is obviously, what is the strategy and how do I go about making one? It's always a big process. People always ask, how do I grow my email signups, or how should I work with different influencers? How do I drive better, improve my sales? So all of these are made clear when you have a clear digital marketing strategy. So at the end of the day, planning will save you a lot of time and money, and it will help you focus your energies where it can potentially be most effective for your brand. So again, marketing strategy begins with knowing your customer, understanding who you are and what you're offering, and being able to communicate that clearly and build a plan out for yourself. Deciding what are your weekly, monthly communication pillars, what are your sales offerings, what loyalty programs can you build, anything else, all of these can be answered in a strategy if you do the right planning and market research. So yeah, so I'll leave you with this. Here I've linked some tools. So Google Forms is one of your best friends. If you really want to understand your audience, one is go find someone who's specifically your audience and ask them a bunch of questions and build a profile on that. Another way that we've also used is you create Google Forms and you can send that out, but make sure that the Google Forms are asking the right questions so you can get the answers that you need to build and understand your audience better. I've also added a few free elements here, free calendar, a free plan for your KR marketing, and some email planning that I've created in the past. Google Analytics is very important, but I know for a lot of people, they don't even really know what they should be looking at. So don't confuse yourself too much with that if that's not something you're familiar with. And then a big thing for a lot of brands is building positive sentiment. So make sure that you have reviews on your website, reviews on Facebook. That can become really strong social media content pillars. And as well, it's reinforcing other people to want to work with you because they see positive sentiment from others. So we'll be sharing this with you and you can get all of the free content and just download it. Cool, so I pass the baton on to Camille.
Thank you. So I'm going to just give a bit of background on myself, just so you guys understand where I come from in terms of creation and content. I have a background in production. I was a producer for a couple of years. I started my business at 27, so I didn't work for a very long time. Let's be clear about this. But I was very, very frustrated with the way that content was created, especially when it comes down to video production, because today you need so much content on social media, especially when you're a young brand and you're launching your business online, and it can cost a lot of money and it can become very overwhelming. And working as a producer, I did see a lot of clients coming in, with very big budgets and, coming out with products that weren't great or not worth the money just because the processes were so long and the teams were so big. And there were a lot of, let's say, steps to go through. And that really frustrated me because I was like, the industry is changing, things are moving so quickly. So we need to, us, the video production companies or the producers or the executives to be able to move quickly. Hence the reason why I created Pixel, because I wanted to be able to bring a format that through which you can create authentic and cheaper content, and also that is much faster to create. So I'm going to give you some tips and some advice on how to create content on a budget. Obviously, there are tons of different ways of creating content for your brand. So this is just ready to help you, and you can just take away from this whatever fits for your brand. So first of all, we're going to talk about choosing the right platform. I think Danny went a bit over it as well, but this is more like social media related. Then creating content on a budget, because I know it's hard when you start creating your content, it can get really costly. Growing your audience, because I think that's one of the biggest, I think it was one of my biggest stress because I created media. So growing an audience, it's hard. And I think you see a lot of people, that just really quickly in a month get like 10,000 followers. Let's be clear about this. It doesn't happen to everybody. It's just a very small percent of people. Growing an audience takes time. So we're going to talk really quickly about that. And then overall, I'll just give you some tips and tools and, just get you started and where you can create content and how. So first, sorry, I have my computer in front of me. So if I look down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. So which platform is right for you? When I started Pixel, because we're starting a media and it's video based, you can pretty much share videos everywhere. So I wanted to do it all. I started everything, like a YouTube channel, we started Instagram, I started LinkedIn, Facebook, and then I just realized that it was just so overwhelming because formats are so different depending on depending on every platform. You don't share the same thing on Facebook, especially today. I think like every platform just becomes very different. You don't share the same thing on Facebook that you share on Instagram or that you would share on LinkedIn. So before you choose your platform, think about where your audience is, where your audience exists, and what kind of content they like. And then from there, decide what kind of content you want to share. I don't know, if you decide to launch a product, maybe Instagram might be better for you because now they have like all those tools with like stores inside Instagram. If you're launching like a media like me, Instagram is great. LinkedIn also is great depending on which industry you're approaching. Every platform really has a different different tools that they can bring you, and you really need to research that before you really go and picking which platform you want. Also keep in mind, it's better to focus on 1, 2, maybe 3 platforms than going all over the place, because you're gonna first lose your audience along the way, because if you put information everywhere, people are just going to be lost. Also, people, like we said, audiences are very different depending on platforms. So concentrate on 1 or 2. And also, just because in terms of time creating content takes so much time and money, it's better to just put all of your eggs in one basket rather than just like going everywhere, because you're going to burn out and it's going to be all over the place. So do that. It's probably better. For myself, Pixel, I've realized that Instagram was honestly the best right now, but again, it really depends on your business. So research first. So small budgets, that's the tricky part. I know a lot of people think that creating video is extremely costly. I still get people today who come to me and they're like, but how am I going to do this? This is so much money. Or a lot of people actually don't go on social media just because they are so overwhelmed and so scared of creating content because it costs so much money. So like all the girls I've said before, planning, we'll go through that afterwards, but planning first of all is very important. But first, I think it comes down to just defining what you can do. Honestly, there's a lot you can do on your own. There's a lot you can learn, and there are tons of tools today that can help you to do that. I started as a producer. I never touched any Photoshop or Premiere or Illustrator or anything until I started my own business. You can learn a lot if you have the time, obviously. I get that. And if you cannot do it on your own, there are platforms where you can find freelancers to help you out that don't cost that much. Also, what helped me a lot was listing your ideas. I think that's where it all starts as well. I get tons of ideas throughout the day. I think once you start creating your business, you just get all those things in your head. And even though I have a really good memory, most of the time you just don't remember. So it's better to have a list. So what I do is, like, whenever I feel stuck or something, I just write on my phone, and I've got tons of lists on my phone, but it gets connected to your computer, so it's perfect. And then once a month I'll go back to that and I'll be like, oh, that was a great idea. That was like 2 months ago. Great. Yeah. And then it will help you create, content, and it will help you also take a step back on what you're creating. So always keep ideas. Like, any idea is good for the taking, and if you're not going to use it, then fine, but at least just make sure it's all there. Because one day, imagine you're like short on ideas, you can just go back to that list and you will thank yourself for having written down, like a couple months before. Also keep it simple. I know it's so hard on social media, because you see people like sharing all those things and all those like content, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just keep it simple. Just keep a simple layout, simple design, even just the inside of the content. Just keep it simple, but just be yourself and be out there. That's the most important. There are, like I said, tons of free tools. Also, free trials are your best friend. Just make sure, we were just talking about it with Ellie, just make sure once you have a free trial that you check after the end of that free trial period, otherwise they will charge you. But free trials are your best friend. They're also a really great way of trying new platforms or new apps that you haven't tried before, and just realizing where you're good and where you're not good at. You can create so much on your own phone. I am a big creator. I love creating, and I create a lot of my content, but I'm always on the go. I'm always working or just commuting or traveling or anything like that. And because my business is based on social media, I need to create content and have content on the go. There are so many apps which I've listed afterwards that you can do on your phone. It will just be so much easier for you and way less stress if a lot of it is already on your phone. Plan in advance. I mean, we've already been through that in anything. I think entrepreneurship is about planning, but planning in advance when it comes to content, it's really great, because then you have time to just like see forward, and you have time to also plan and rethink, later on. So plan in advance, ask for feedback. I know it's hard, but also be careful with it, but just make sure you ask feedback from, a group of people you really trust. And it's always important to have people just help you out with this, because I know creating content can be scary, and putting yourself out there can be scary. And keep track of your cost and your time being also cost. So make sure that you spend enough time, but not too much. And I think when you start, it's very important to keep track of those things, cost and time, because you'll see at the end of the year when you just put all those numbers together, you might realize that you're spending way too much time or way too much money, and then you can realize where you can cut and where you cannot. So from a small budget, then we'll talk about growth. So growth, it's tricky. It takes patience. It takes patience. Like I said, it's great if you can grow very quickly. If you cannot, it's fine. It happens to most of us. It takes a very long time. You just have to be patient. You have to be consistent. You have to post regularly. You have to be present. You have to, respond to your followers. Make sure in the comments, even if it's like 1 or 2 comments, once or twice, just make sure that you respond to your comments, just because your audience will be happy to see that there is a person behind your account. What I also do is, no matter if it's me or someone else from my team who goes on Instagram, whenever someone DMs us, I always introduce myself. I always say, hi, I'm Camille, I'm the founder. So glad you're reaching out. How can I help? Always make sure that you're putting a person behind your account, because people will feel so much more close to you, and building relationships are so important. And it will be long lasting, and it will be so much better for your business and your brand afterwards. Education is a big thing. I think right now you do see a lot of content that sometimes isn't relevant. People just create content just to create it. Don't do that. I know you have to create a lot of content, but make sure that people coming on your account take something out of their experience on your page, not just your product or how beautiful it is designed. Make sure that you educate on subjects that are close to your brand and to you. And it ties down to also being real and organic. Don't be scared of putting yourself out there, just doing stories of yourself, just interacting directly, doing lives, being real and authentic. Right now, I think we're losing a lot of that with social media, and it's of the most, it's just very, very, very important, I think, if you want to sell your brand and really touch your audience. Diversification. Again, I think it comes down to also just sharing content that is just beyond your product. I think diversify, whether it's videos, whether it's text, whether it's photos, whether you host events and things like that. Just diversify the content, because people will get bored if you always share the same thing. But again, keep it simple, but diversify. Discussion. It goes down to also presents. Just make sure you start discussions on your accounts. You want people to come here and share their opinion, but also being able to engage with other people and connecting everybody. It's important to start discussions on matters that are close to your brand. And last but not least is also a big thing is collaboration. Collaboration doesn't have to be paid all the time. It doesn't have to just be you paying an influencer. But the great way to collaborate is to just you find a brand that's very similar to yours and just started. Collaborate on something, do a giveaway, just decide to, I don't know, maybe a podcast or host a live together. It's a great way to cross promote each other. It doesn't cost anything. And also it shows that you are open to helping each other. I think entrepreneurship is about helping each other as well. Like we are doing, the 4 of us, like it's important to help each other and to promote each other. It's not because you're promoting someone who's doing the same thing that you're going to lose business. It might actually help you in the long run. So think about collaboration. It's really important. And so here are some tips and tools. I think I've linked everything, from social media planners where you can find stock footage, where creation tools, a lot of those apps you can have on your phone. Like I say, I really like having everything on my phone. It's so much easier when you create content. And you have also tools to help you, follow your metrics and who follows you, who doesn't follow you, who is more engaged, who isn't. And then I've also added the freelancers platform. I think you guys probably know about Fiverr already, but it's really good if you want to, I don't know, you're stuck one day and you want someone to help you out with whatever, a little video or content, and you only have a certain amount of budget, then this is the best way, because you have so many options out there. So Fiverr is honestly my best friend when I need. And having freelancers really does save your life sometimes. So. So yeah, that's it for my part. So before we go into the Q&A, I think we've talked a bit about the fact that we were going to come out with a course after this. So the point of this course, just to explain a bit, is when I started my business, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was 27. I worked full time. and I battled depression like twice throughout it, and 2 burnouts. Like it was a bit of a nightmare when I started. And I think it's important to have something like this, like a package that really helps you, and a community also that helps you. We talked about community. So we are creating a course that will be, incorporating everything that was just said today and more. That's why the Q&A is also important, because we want to know also about what you want, because you guys got a really good questions. And so there are going to be a few different things. So we're gonna, it will be like an overall guide on how to help you start your business, because we've been there, and we want to make sure that people have an easier time than we did at creating their own business. So there will be, checklist. There'll be free templates. For my part, for example, I'll give away, like free budget templates to help you plan live sessions, videos, webinars, audio recordings. We're just creating the website right now. So it's basically going to be like a big community of entrepreneurs going together, and we'll try to guide you as well as we can to create a sustainable business. I don't know if you girls want to add anything to that part.
Yeah, thanks, Camille. Thank you, everyone. Let's talk about some of the questions that you guys posted. Are there any questions for me and Camille? Please feel free to speak if you want, or type if you're more comfortable. I see a few people. Ricky asked, I have a question for opening social media accounts. Young people know well, but obviously for certain generations that aren't familiar, is there any quick way to learn? So I personally love Later. Later is an Instagram sort of learning channel. They have lots of videos and stuff. So it's a good resource, Ricky, if you want to go learn more about social media, especially Instagram. It's Later. I think we can link it in the channel chat. I'll find it in a minute for you. Another way also is that we found that interns in general are very cheap. So it's very easy always, if you want to get an intern and pay them very little, they'll happily manage your social media account. So that's also an option. A lot of people are looking for experience, so they'd pretty much do it on the cheap. So that would be a recommendation as well.
Yeah, interns as well. Yeah, I've had many times interns asking if they could help with social media. So if you don't know where to start, that's where to start.
Yeah. Camille, a question just popped up for you. Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, how to find the right people to collab in Corona times? Yes. Well, let me tell you something. I'm handling my business from the UK, so I'm not even in person in Hong Kong. So when it comes to connecting, it takes a long time to research. I think any person you want to collab with anyway, you should research in advance, because you don't want to collab with someone that doesn't align with what you do or your brand or your vision. And reach out. I've always said to people, when you want to collab with an influencer, select a few of them and then email all of them, because probably just 2 or 3 will respond anyway. It's all about connection, and it takes time. So, is there a new? No. So to approach them, I think we talked about this with Danny once in a podcast. I think to approach people to collab, just be yourself. Just be yourself. Present who you are. Present your brand, and clearly state your goals and what you're looking for in that collaboration. And then see if they're open to it or not. And if they're not, they're lost. Then you move on and you find somebody else. But make sure you really research before who you want to collab with, because that's very important. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. Do we have any more questions or?
Yeah, so Instagram planning tools that Danny referenced. Sure. So in my slide of references, I basically added a calendar in there. But for Instagram planning, there are apps called Plan. I can share some other apps as well in the chat. But yeah, generally what I used to do is I would just grab a PowerPoint if you're not familiar with Photoshop and all these other channels, and in PowerPoint you sort of start planning what a month would look like. So be it Monday, I'm talking about my product, Wednesday I'll talk about this, Friday I'll talk about this, or I'm going to be posting every day, and these are the topics I will discuss each week, and then making sure that you remain consistent. Because a lot of the time what happens is obviously you need consistent branding, consistent communication, making sure that what you're putting out there in the world is reflecting what's in your head, what's your business idea, and that it's communicating the proper information to your audiences. So planning ahead, like Camille said, can be super helpful, because once you know what you need to be talking about, it's easier to be like, what visuals can I go create that will help me emphasize this? Do I need to go take flat lay photos of my products? How many of that do I need a month? How many photos do I need of people or this or this? And so once you have the communication key points, it's easier to go create content and understand how much of what you need to plan each month. And if you can do that yourself, great. You have a phone, you can edit it. Or if you need a photographer, go find an intern, see if they're willing, but be able to brief them with what it is you need and want to communicate on social. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Any other questions? So yeah, I shared Ricky the link for later in the chat. They've got some really useful tips and resources for newbies on Instagram. They have some good tools and stuff in there, so please feel free to check that out. Yes, and grid posts, correct. There's that as well that helps you post it and plan ahead. Also,
I don't know
Pinterest.
Yeah, Pinterest is great. It's also good for to just get inspirations as well. And I also use, what I do is I use Trello with my team, where we plan out all of the content that's going to come out, and then we use later, because the problem with later is it's a little hard posting videos through IGTV, so I still do it, personally. But it can help you, plan everything else. Also, if you have multiple accounts, it's so much easier. So we do that with Trello, where we plan in advance all of our content for 3 months, and then we go on later to put everything, and then we use grid posts to make sure that it looks good after. Well, we have a very, the branding we have is just very consistent. But if you have lots of different posts, it's a really good tool to have. Yeah.
Perfect.
Preview,
So
yeah, it's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, so Delia also shared preview is a really good option. So we don't want to keep everyone too long. We've already had you for an hour. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if you have any other questions, please do feel free to message any of us on our Instagram, and we'll be emailing you this document with all the links. And best of luck, and do let us know if you need any other information. We'll happily
Or if you have any questions, just email us. We'll be happy to respond to the email address. We'll have access to it. So yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining.
Hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Oh, thanks, KB.
Thanks, guys. We'll stay on for another minute, but I'm sure everyone's tired after the long Chinese New Year weekend here in Hong Kong. Well, you didn't have that in the UK, but yeah.
No, just lockdown. Just plain lockdown.
Yeah, just lockdown time.
Just that.